Hi, Selena.
Hey.
What are we discussing on today's episode?
Well, today we're talking about the future and what the home buying process will look like as digital transformation starts to take hold in the home builder world. We know there are already a lot of builders who are learning from the changes in consumer behavior, and they're doing a great job. And now they're starting to evolve their product offering to be more digital. Who do we have on this episode to help us talk about this digital transformation?
Today's guest is Amy Power, and she's the Director of Marketing at Rohit Communities and a real leader in pushing towards a more digital future for home buying. You're listening to Build Up, the Homebuilder podcast, brought to you by ZGN. I'm Jordan.
And I'm Selena.
We're marketers
and brand strategists.
And we love applying our expertise to the home building industry. Join us as we uncover industry insights, chat with colleagues, and explore exciting ways to push the home building world forward.
Hi, Amy.
Hi, Selena.
So happy to have you here.
Thanks so much for having me.
We are very excited to talk to you about innovation and tech in home building, and Rohit is a leader in innovation. We love working with your team on all the cool projects you guys bring forward. But what we really want to talk to you about is to get to know why Rohit kind of felt the need to take that approach to leading with tech in home building.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think home building aside, the future is digital, period. I mean, my watch just told me I needed to stand up, and my 8-year-old wants to learn how to code his own game in Roblox. I mean, I think it's our whole lives, and so no business, no industry is exempt for that. It's part of every customer journey now, right?
Yeah, definitely. In our last episode, we had a conversation with Tom from UTour, and we're talking about exactly this, kind of like the digital. It's almost, and we might have done this on purpose, but we looked at and we talked with Tom about the digital sales process and everything with sales centers and show homes and what all that looks like in UTour. And now we're following up with you almost on the other end of that, and what that progression means in moving kind of online, digitally, and even from a sales point of view as well.
Yeah. I mean, for years we've been saying we're going to sell a home online. And it seems like a really simple goal, and that's what we want to do, but it's so much more complicated than that, and it's so much deeper than that on so many levels. It's about streamlining the process and making the information available to the customers in real time and being transparent with that and communicating at every step of the journey, and making it simple, because that's where it's more enjoyable, when it's not this big scary thing that buying a house can be, when it's a process that's enjoyable, because all of that information is at your fingertips, whether that's digitally or otherwise. That's what's going to give people that comfort level, because it's also what they're used to in buying everything else right now.
Yeah. So I think, because I work closely with you on a few things, I find it really interesting how kind of fearless Rohit is in that we want to sell a home online. It could be a daunting kind of thing for this industry. It's such a big purchase. There's so many little, not little, huge technicalities involved, from like internally from your team. I know that there's so many things going on at one time when somebody's buying it, from construction to the sales team to procurement to all that stuff that's going on. So kind of how does your team focus on how do we make this all a digital process? What are the steps that you're taking internally?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, because I think if we take our app, so we started down that sort of current iteration of the app, 2020, I guess. Mm-hmm. Yeah, last year. And it was such a massive project. And what we really had to do was hone it in and say, okay, what does the first phase look like? What do we want to tackle first? And breaking it down that way is I think the key to success, right? We said at that point, okay, what we want to do is we want to link our back end with the front end and make that information and our whole inventory of homes available to our customers at their fingertips. And that was phase one. And so we got that done. And then what does it look like next? Okay, now we need to create the contract generation piece. And this is sort of that marketing and sales side, that front end. But then we also have, of course, teams that are working in the back end on that construction process and building out the schedule and the tech pieces that go into that as well. And so bite-sized projects, I think, to get to that end goal.
I think it's probably the same with any project. I'll always break it down into bite-sized pieces.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
I think with like the digital side of thing, it's interesting because I think even I get overwhelmed by it sometimes and thinking like, wow, this has got to be like this huge thing. And the end goal is such a big picture thing that it's hard to focus on just breaking it down into bite-sized pieces and being able to manage that. But when you do, like you say, you just little yard marks and like little wins and move those along and eventually you'll be there. But at the same time, I don't know, is it ever going to be done? Or is it just going to be like, what's next? And then we got to go further.
Yeah, maybe. That's a really good point. That's sort of and I think what continues to happen, especially in technology, because the goalposts change. Now there's, AI, or now there's, right? So as you get to where you thought you might be, and now there's a different trend or a different innovation, and should you pause, step back, or look at incorporating that? And you will always be calibrating that way, I think, for sure. I used to joke that I did a marketing degree, but there was no Facebook at the time. So now I've aged myself. But right, so I think those things continue to evolve, and you have to keep pushing forward, but then also step back and look at the big picture and what makes sense at that time.
There is this really interesting theory that I love thinking of when I think about marketing, and especially the digital transformation piece, and it is called the marginal gains theory, also known as the 1% factor. And so it suggests that small, meaningful improvements can lead to monumental results. And so just adding up that 1% constantly improved makes a huge difference over time. And that is true of saving resources, of improving processes, of all things.
I want to quickly just kind of go back to what you said about your first little bite-sized piece that you approached, and that was the inventory piece. And just how, Jordan, you talk about convenience and how convenience is like the word of 2022. And you really did think about the consumer and how to make the buying process more convenient and transparent. And not a lot of, I think, from what I know, not a lot of home builders really show their whole catalog of home options that are available. And that's a little bit of a disruptor in the industry for showing this is everything we have. We're not going to hide anything from you. We're not going to, kind of take a step back and be like, well, maybe if you come back later, we'll show you some more stuff. So I really like that kind of thinking and doing something a little bit different.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I mean, for us, it was I think an easy decision. The tougher part was then how do we get it? How do we get it there, right? And also, I think we have a huge inventory. We have a massive model library. We're building in 3-4 regions, so it's also about, you can't just show it all to them like a Sears catalog, right? You need to be able to organize the data and provide it to them in a way that's meaningful for them, because not everyone is interested in the $200,000 condo and the $800,000 home. So providing that customized view of what's applicable to the customer is important. So you've got to think about that, because it is a customer-driven innovation at the end of the day, right? Yeah.
One of the features that I find really exciting about the app is the ability to actually place a hold on the product in the app. So we're not just talking about like window shopping. We're actually talking about someone's ability to like progress in that sales process and place a hold on a product. What has sort of the response been to that and the experience, and what was it like when you got like your first hold on a house?
Oh, that's exactly where I was going. I can tell you what the response was like when we saw that first one come in. Like, I was like literally jumping around the office, because it's that thing, like we say, oh, we're going to sell a house online, and people say, oh, you won't do that. But they said that about buying furniture online, and then they said that about buying cars online. And the truth is, if the information is there, that it might happen, and it did happen, and we got a hold. And I think for people, especially in the market that we saw last year, things were moving really quickly, and same is true, and especially in our Calgary market today. And so there is a desire for someone, if they find what they're looking for, they know what they're looking for, they find what they're looking for, they want to act on it right away. And it's not viewable on the sort of public sphere of the app, but our salespeople use that to generate their contracts. Like, it is tied to our inventory management system. So it's all right there. So seeing someone be like, yeah, hold this home for me and let's take the next step, was really exciting, and I think is an indication that people, are there. And, now it's still a very, paperwork heavy process, but we've taken that all digital as well. And I think that helps push that next part of the journey in that sale and post. So yeah, it was really exciting.
Yeah.
So I know your team had been working, of course, towards a more digital experience, but do you feel like the last 2 years, the pandemic and kind of what's going on has accelerated that?
Are you going to say the C word?
I didn't say it. I said the P word.
Say it, the P word.
I said pandemic.
It's funny. I don't thank COVID for much, but it really was that great accelerator piece. I was thinking about this the other day. It's one of those things where, do you remember where you were when they announced the lockdown?
Yep.
Like vividly.
It's one of those
etched
things.
in my brain, right? It's like one of our generational times. And yeah, I remember it very much from a, sort of personal standpoint. Oh, I've got to get a sitter and all of these things. But then we get to work the next day and it's like, what are we going to do? And, we're a very tech forward organization. So we could go home. We knew we could work. We use DocuSign. We can still sell a house, but would anybody actually still buy one when the world is, as we know it, was like locked down? So yeah, then we went to that online chat piece, and something that's relatively simple in terms of technical complexity. But we turned around and got that live in 12 days in 3 regions with real-time salespeople answering the chats,
Training.
12 hours a day, 7 days a week, trained up, ready to go. In like 12 days. And it became our number one source of lead generation for the next 2 months while everybody was at home. And we continued to sell houses because people did continue to want to buy them. And so it was one of those things that, we're like, oh, we could do this. We could have the online chat. The tech is there. But then it was like, okay, we need to turn it on. And we did instantly. And then, same thing with the app, the next version of the app. And now the website, we're learning more and more about customer behavior. And I think what will be really interesting to see is what sticks around from this new buyer behavior, and what people want to get back to and sort of give up. But I think a lot of it is here to stay because we've proved a lot of those digital pieces in the time. So yeah, it's interesting.
I agree. I think we all agree that some of those pieces are sticking around. There's an appetite for it, that convenience, that, efficiency.
As
Yeah.
if I'm going back to like going to a grocery store and picking out my own groceries.
Oh.
Like I'm ordering for the rest of my life.
Never, right?
Yeah. I can do it from my bed on a Sunday evening and have groceries the next day. Like,
Just
come on.
shows up. Who wouldn't want that?
Yeah. No, I think you're right. There are a lot of ways that consumer behavior has changed, and I think a lot of it's going to stick around. It'll be interesting to see what drops off and what continues. But the idea that we're going to go back to the way things were 2 years ago, no, that's not going to happen.
No. I think especially too, like this Gen Z entering our consumer space, it changes things a bit too. Like I'm a millennial, an older millennial. I was described as a geriatric millennial in one blog that I quickly stopped following. But, that behavior that we kind of got accustomed to, Gen Z has always sort of had in their lives, right? Like we were the, you get what you get, you don't get upset kind of generation. And they're the, I want what I want and I want it now, right? We had to just like be home at 8:00 to watch Friends on a Thursday night. They just turn on it. They don't even understand not being able to watch their show when they want at any time, however many episodes. And so, catering to that, I think too, or understanding that, like it's not it's just the facts. That's what they're used to. And that's where
Exactly.
those expectations have changed. And so we have to adjust along with it, which is exciting.
Yeah, and like realistically, like that age group, that cohort essentially was born with a smartphone in their hand.
Yes.
And the whole world was at their fingertips. And restricting that in any way, shape, or form is not a recipe for success with that audience. Like, you really just have to give them the access and they'll do what they want with it. And so, yeah, I think that's a really important aspect to home buying and the home buying process.
I have a nerdy question. I want to know how adding in all that exciting technology piece, like adding in the inventory, getting in the app, doing the chatbot and the chat flows, how did that change your workflow process in terms of needing to update new inventory? And how was the rollout for your team on the update of that? Because I imagine it takes a lot of updating, right? Like regularly.
Yeah, I mean, the information has to get updated anyway. The fact that it's now customer facing makes the requirement for that to be, accurate and timely, all the greater. I think one of the things that it also did for us was force us to look at that sales process, right? So is there a salesperson that's that online sales specialist that's answering the leads before they come in, before they go to the show homes? Like, does your channels and your traditional sales models work? How do realtors fit in there? How do all those pieces work together? So from the data side, yeah, it had to be there anyway because they have to build the house correctly. But then to make sure that data is consumable from a customer-facing standpoint, does definitely add a layer of accuracy and efficiency to that, for sure.
This kind of project or approach to bringing in the digital information and making it fully accessible, that's a bit of a disruption. And anytime there's disruption, there's pushback, internally, externally. What was some of the pushback that you received internally, and how did you overcome that to move this forward?
Good question. Internally, it's funny. We have a pretty open culture in that, of the push the boundaries and try new things, and I think from the tech side especially, we've got a couple of computer engineers in leadership. So those things seem to be, we maybe get a little bit more leeway than other organizations do on that side. Pushback really, I think, comes from the, but we have so many, but that's not how it works. That, I think, traditional piece. I don't know if you remember, Selena, you were at our retreat a few years ago, and we talked about the show home model. The show home parade model started in 1951. And so it's like, oh, but we need to do it this way because it's always been done that way. And I think that can come from internal or external. And it's like, yeah, but what if we tried this? And so, we have a culture of let's try it. And I think that's where we're able to be successful on that front, for sure. Yeah.
That made me think of if you build it, they will come.
Yeah.
And how the new generation, if you build it, they will not come. They do not care. You have to make them care.
Physically build it.
The physical build.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's that, while it's customer driven innovation and we're thinking about the customers and we're thinking about what's more convenient and efficient and better for their experience, if you ask them, that wouldn't be what they would tell you that they needed. As Henry Ford said, if we asked them, they would have said they wanted a faster horse, right? So it's that piece of like, okay, maybe we have to try things and maybe they don't work. We've tried a lot of stuff is that a question? We're gonna get to that one. That hasn't been really successful. But you kind of have to put those things out there, and that's innovation, right? Mm-hmm. It's just trying those pieces and seeing what sticks, what works, and what's best for that customer process.
Mm-hmm. And it's never really like a failure. There's always a learning.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Oh yeah,
yeah.
That was our VR experience. Did I tell you about that one? We had our essential product line, which is quite a complicated sort of build form of stacked townhomes. And so we thought, people are going to need to walk through it, but they can't until we build it, but we want to sell it now. So we we VR'd it. We got the headset, we set it up in the sales center. You could put it on, you could walk through the models. And the kids loved it. So we're like, oh, this was the greatest success because it occupied the kids while we could talk to the people through the sales. But the tech, it still feels like a game, right? It didn't actually feel like you could visualize walking through the space. And maybe that tech will get there. And I'm not saying we wouldn't come back to it, but yeah, that was one that always sticks out of like, we found the success. And that was the silver lining of the kids' corner in the Essential Sales Center. Yeah.
Oh, that's really cool. What are you sort of seeing the future? So, we're at a point right now where we've got the Rohit app, and the Rohit app does the holds, and it does the full product library and all of that side of things. What do you see coming next?
Oh, good question. Well, our website launches, which is really exciting. And, so I guess, I don't know if funny is the right word, but, the website used to be about colors and fonts, and it still is, but, it's that user experience now that we really have to consider. And then if they're on our website and then they go to the app, how is that experience connected? And then from there, even the rest of the sales process, right? Talking to someone in the show homes, and working those pieces together. So yeah, the website is such a big project because again, it pulls in all of that information from all of our systems and pulls it all together in a consumable way. And it has to be consumable on mobile now because mobile is where most of the web traffic comes from. That's just a plug for the new website that you're going to get to see in early 22. But yeah, I think, that 1% that Santana mentioned of just, that next piece and just building on that to create just a really seamless, convenient, enjoyable customer experience. Because with tech, there's always bugs too, right? Yeah. So you've got it glitches, you hear that, or it didn't give me all of the information. And so ironing that out and just taking that next piece of the project and putting it out there, I think will get us there until the next trend or innovation comes along, and then we have to pause and see how that fits into the process, or if it fits into the process.
Yeah, always evolving. The new website takes a bit of a different approach to, I think, what a typical home builder website would look like. And, in a lot of ways, moves the role of the website into a different position in the consumer journey. I'm excited for it. I think, obviously, we think it was the right thing to do, and you think it's the right thing to do. But how do you see that playing a different role in the consumer journey? Yeah, well, I think it's going to be exciting that, again, we've given them information and meeting that customer on their terms. Lena in our office has said, people are tired of give us your information and we'll give you some more information and that kind of approach to business, and really it's about letting them find what they need in a really easy and consumable way, at their convenience, at their leisure. And so they get the information is there, and they can take it as far as they want, or they can choose their own adventure, as I like to say, to determine how they want to interact next. They want to go to the show home, they can go to the show home. They want to jump on the chat, they can jump on the chat if they have a question right away. So it's about, realizing those customer expectations are changing, and making sure that we're delivering the information that they need to make a great home buying decision. Yeah.
I think both the My Rohit Home app and your new website, like what Jordan's saying, it does kind of fit in a different place in the consumer journey compared to what traditionally was the home buying process, and kind of shifts things a little bit for a salesperson. Mm-hmm. So kind of what feedback have you been getting from your sales team with the My Rohit Home app? And I don't know if your sales team has seen any sneak peeks of the websites, but if they have any feedback on kind of what's going on and maybe any pushback or concerns, because it is a little bit different.
Yeah, for sure. And I think what's important to remember about that sort of the customer journey, or how I see it, is that, that sales funnel we used to talk about isn't really necessarily a cone. And certainly in our industry, right? I mean, it's so cyclical in that they're coming and they're checking it out. It's buying a home can often be a lengthy process, where they're coming and they're returning and they're reaching out multiple touch points and they're sourcing information from multiple sources, and they're pulling all of that together. So I think that's where the website or the app fit in a customer journey, in that they don't fit in the cone, but they certainly fit better in the more cyclical customer journey that we're seeing. The sales team, I think what's important to also keep in mind, I've said that a lot, it's very important, there's lots of very important things, though, is that a digital experience doesn't mean a cold and clinical experience. Yeah. And so what the sales team is seeing now is a more educated consumer, right? So we've given them the information on the homes that we have available and the styles of the homes and what's in them. And so they're getting a qualified lead typically when that customer reaches out to say, I just saw this house on your website. Is it still available? When can I move in? And, it's not replacing that role of trusted advisor. I mean, we see that in the realtor world. MLS now is available to everyone. We can see all of the homes there that the realtors can, but we still have that realtor as trusted advisor, or that realtor as that added convenience piece of they'll do that legwork for the consumer. And so our sales team is better equipped with all of that information. And same, they can sell anything that's in that portfolio as well. So they have the app at their fingertips. They can find that information. So if they take a call and they're in the grocery store, they can quickly pull open the app and find out if that's available for a customer as well. So yeah, it's creating a more qualified buyer, more educated buyer, and it's just still one piece of that customer journey. Yeah.
So a happy sales team.
I think because it is in that bred into our culture of that, pushing that envelope and trying new technology. They've been through a lot of systems, and so they work through that, and they're great. I mean, that when we get a new piece of technology or a new version of the app rolls out, they've got to work through those hiccups with us, and so kudos to them for always doing that, and for seeing that it's always for that greater good and that next step, and adding to that journey at the end of the day. So a shout out to our sales team.
Yes,
go team, you're great.
We love the sales team.
Yes.
When it comes to the consumer today, I love what you're talking about in terms of they're coming in more educated for the sales team. That to me is like a win-win, because there's nothing a marketer hates more than when the sales team is just like, they're all cold leads and I can't do anything with them. Mm-hmm. Okay, sure. But we're really getting to a stage, and what we're talking about in the digital transformation and the website and the app, we're allowing the consumer to absorb that information on their own terms and really get a sense and understanding of the product and educate themselves before even taking the next step. And so they're coming in so much more educated than ever before. And in our other conversation in a previous episode, we were talking about, there was this couple had booked a remote tour, and they were coming to the sales center, and it was booked for 6. And the salesperson was like, well, I'm just going to work late and I'll be here for when they're here. And then it was 6:15 and, they hadn't showed up. So the salesperson thought, well, they must have canceled. And then they left. But then the couple was waiting outside in their car, and they actually wanted to wait for the salesperson to leave because they wanted to do it on their own terms. Mm. And I think that's so interesting. We think that we've got to involve ourselves and we've got to have the salespeople there. But the customer today, I think, is really more interested in doing it on their terms and having that information, that access. And I think that's exactly where Rohit is going with this.
Yeah, I think it's and that's also not for everybody. Everybody is different, and they do expect to be served how they want to, right? It's we treat others the way you want to be treated. No, treat others the way they want to be treated. And figuring that out can be tricky, and it often means you just have a variety of different ways of doing business. And, there's a price to that as well. So you have to weigh what works and what works for the bulk of your consumers. Like I remember talking about buying that, the house online. Some people are people and want, their realtor or their sales agent or their representative, with them all the time. And they like to have their hand holded and they want someone there to answer questions. Other people want, to just take it in on their own. They want to do all of their research online. They want to put spreadsheets together and pros and cons, or
I'm a
maybe
spreadsheet.
Jordan.
Yeah, I'm a spreadsheet person
right?
for sure.
Others are like, no, I need my dad or my uncle who's a contractor to be involved in this process. So, there are a lot of different ways people want to engage. And, I think as a builder, as any business, you have to figure out what pieces work for you in your business. And then, you won't be for everybody, obviously, but yeah.
We want options. The
Yeah,
consumer just
right?
wants options. And it's so funny because we were just talking about this, like when you go to a department store and like somebody comes up to you right away and you're like, oh, no, I'm just looking. But then you do need help in like 10 minutes and you're like, where is the person?
Yeah, right?
Why is this taking so long?
Totally true.
Yeah.
Yeah. We have very like changing expectations. And I think that's part of that, what I know what I want. I want it and I want it now. This is how I want it, right? I mean, free shipping, same day shipping, no shipping, now we see a shipping charge. We're like, oh my God, but there's a cost, it's a cost to businesses, right?
Yeah.
To do all these pieces. So, I mean, it's that's why it's so interesting, I think, to be in business and to be in customer.
Yeah, it's fun right
Service.
now, I think,
Yeah.
especially with that new buyer coming because it's pushing us to do some different and fun things.
Yeah.
What are you hearing from customers
Oh goodness. What are
about
you
the
hearing?
app, about, what's going on in your very tech forward way of doing business?
I mean, I think ultimately customers have embraced it. We sold, I think, a couple of weeks into the P word, the pandemic, we had sold a home over Zoom, like without ever meeting that customer. And it was exciting too, because, we knew you could do it, but you don't, because it's easy to just say like, well, pop by my sales center or, I'm here. And when that wasn't legally allowed or safe for us to do, we found other ways of doing it. And I think that adaptation for the sales team and for the customer really spoke to what we're seeing. Like customers can and will adapt. Like I never would have thought I could grocery shop from my bed. Like I like to touch the things and see the things and how the lime's a good size, but we adapted and we did things differently. And I think for customers, their ability to just see the inventory and be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna put a hold on that and click on that without feeling like, oh, where did my information go, or where did we get, right? There's a trust for brands that are transparent that way, right? We've given you that and they'll give us that. And they're spending a lot of time on the app. They're sharing with their friends, the house that they like, or maybe that's the husband or however that's working. But yeah, they're interacting well. And I think overall embracing it. And the same is true with our realtor community as well, right? In that they're able to have that access. If they can't get the salesperson on the phone, they know what we've got. And it's ultimately just all about being able to serve that customer.
I love that realtor piece because that's like a nice little benefit as well. Because there is a little bit of, I think, of that barrier with realtors and, working with new home builders or just like a new home versus a resale home. And it's because of that, again, that transparency and that access to information. But now they can see it all. They can see all that's available.
It's really got to be a source of frustration for a lot of realtors working with home builders, because I think that the realtor is very much used to having all the information. Like I've got, behind the scenes, all the data. I know when that house last sold. I know how much it sold for. I know all of the details. And then to be working with a builder, it's like, well, now I've got to go through a salesperson, and are they going to be available? And like, I need to get back to my client. But you've given them the information on the app, and you've given them that ability to see everything. And I think that's really powerful. And I think that goes to building a lot of trust with realtors as well, and allowing them to feel really confident that when I work with Rohit and when I recommend Rohit to a buyer, that it's going to work well.
Yeah, and the salespeople have always been sort of a key piece in that, and still are, right? We've got trusted realtor partners that are that understand our business and know that they can bring a customer to Rohit, and that will take good care of them, and that they're going to get a product that they can be proud of. But yeah, again, it's just that, I mean, for realtors especially, they're working out of their cars, right? So there's a convenience factor to the app piece, because everything we do is on our phones. It'll even tell you how much screen time you spent on it. So
Yeah. Does it even
sometimes
exist
scary.
if it's not like on your phone?
No.
No,
Like-
No, it doesn't.
So when we talk about Rohit and the app and the new website, we're really, and all of the data that pulls into that, we're talking about something that's actually unique to Rohit. And we're talking about kind of the tech arm and tech division that exists
Yeah.
within a home builder company,
Uh-huh.
which is very unique and interesting. How did that come to be a part of the family? Why was that even, like, you're a home builder company? Why is there a
Yeah.
tech side of your company?
Yeah, our sister company, I call them. Tech to build. I mean, every business is a technology business. I mean, you have to be nowadays. And I think, us probably more than others for sure, just based on our makeup and our DNA. But yeah, Tech to Build was founded, the way many tech companies are, in that we were attempting to solve business process problems with modern technology. So, and provide value add to the consumer. So applying that modern technology to age-old sort of process problems. But those problems are not specific to us, which we realized as we worked down. So we ended up with this software company that are developing home building software. So that's Tech to Build, and that's what they do. And it connects all of the stakeholders, so your employees, your suppliers, your customers, in real time. So end-to-end home building software. And I am probably not doing it justice. I am sure.
We should bring them on for an
you should-
episode
yeah.
next season.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Alex Goslin is our CTO for Tech to Build. And when he started with the company, it wasn't Tech to Build at the time. So, he was working really directly with us on some of our transformation pieces. And every couple of weeks he was in the marketing office with a new idea, like hopped up on caffeine and look what I built. And, we were hurting his feelings, I think, shutting down some of these ideas. But as I said, you've got to do those innovative pieces to get there. And then, one day he came in and said, what if we updated the customer when the site super moved the house a stage of construction, and then they automatically knew where their house? That's brilliant. And, so we, that sort of ideation and that continuation of just pushing and looking at sometimes it's like, okay, we've got to solve this problem, and so we'll put a technology patch on it. Other times it's, we've got this technology, this is how it can add value to the customer, and it works that opposite way. So we've been doing both of those things, and yeah, so it needed to be formalized though. Otherwise, we were just going to keep calling these guys for help with email and computers. So we spun them off, and they're and yeah, Tech to Build. Tech2.build. They're that cool. So.
Yeah, they are that cool.
They're cool, yeah.
Yeah, we will have Alex on the show. Alex, this is your invite right now if you're listening.
You're coming. It's not an invite. It's
Yeah.
done. We've penciled you in.
Yeah, we'll send you the details.
All right, Amy. When do you think you're gonna sell your first home online?
Oh goodness, it's one of those things where, in some ways, like I said, it feels like I'm like, didn't we already? We had this house and we had that house, and have we done it? Because it is all being done on the app. But yeah, new website, new version
Full
of the
process,
app,
beginning to
full
end
hobo,
transaction.
beginning to end. Oh, it's soon.
Soon?
It's soon, Selena. Soon.
I can't wait.
You'll be
We'll
my
celebrate.
third call.
Okay.
Okay.
At the end of every episode, we want to leave our listener with one big encapsulating idea. So we like to ask everyone what their biggest takeaway from this conversation today was. Oh, Selena is waving.
My biggest takeaway from the conversation, and something that you said, Amy, that I thought was really powerful, is that sometimes you have to take a risk and you're going to fail. And that's okay. And you're going to learn from that failure, but maybe you shouldn't see it as a failure. It's a learning opportunity. And it's when you take those risks that sometimes something really magical happens. So I think in home building, it's such a intense world, just for everything involved, the consumer process, the back end, the people, everything. There's just so many things going on, and taking a risk is scary. And there's a lot at stake, but sometimes when you do it, some cool things happen. So, Jordan?
My takeaway from today's episode is, I think it's an interesting insight, actually, Amy, that you talked about. And it's brand trust is a very important part of creating a relationship and building a sale. I think it's a really interesting idea that we're giving customers more access, more information, more detail, and that's helping us to build brand trust. By giving that access and giving that information that maybe was protected behind a salesperson before, or maybe protected behind a sign up here or any kind of thing like that, we're now willing to just give you the information and allow you to absorb it on your terms. And we're building brand trust through that. And I think that's really interesting. I think that's really powerful. I think that's going to be really successful for the future and our future customers that are coming in the market.
Yeah. Well, Santana mentioned the 1%, that incremental movements. And sometimes I think when you're in those, it never feels like enough. That 1%, it's like, oh, we haven't sold the house online yet. So why haven't we? Where are we going? How do we disrupt it and blow it up? But that 1% piece is really valid. And I think changes more than that 1%. And before you know it, it's created much more significant growth than you thought of. But my question back was, because I think sometimes we think, oh, home building or real estate is behind the sort of technological or digital trends that we're seeing out there. But chatting with Lena at the office today, someone had said to her, oh, I think they're really advanced. You've got virtual tours and you've got all of these things. So is it because maybe we're too close to it that we, or we want more, or we've got, this culture of innovation that we're selling ourselves short? Santana, it's going to take us home.
I think we live in a weird time. I do. I think your question is so valid. Do I think that home builders are behind? No, I actually think they're doing a pretty good job in a lot of ways. I've seen a lot of companies that are very far behind and very archaic. However, I think because we live in this internet world with all of these angel investors floating around, it is kind of the age of the young investor. So we see all of these crazy startups that have all this intense funding and backing and money that gets pumped into all of these digital disruptor solutions that all we see now are these disruptor brands. So it feels like we're supposed to be on the bleeding edge, when really, are those tested products yet, or do they just have enough money that they can come swinging out the gates? I don't know.
Yeah, really interesting. Because you think, the big, hairy, audacious goal, it was, we'll sell houses online. And now it's kind of we kind of do that, don't we? You get to this place where it wasn't this massive, moment in time, but more of just marching towards that better customer experience that allows that to be possible. And that's pretty cool in and of itself, I think.
I think so too.
Definitely. Santana, what's your takeaway?
My takeaway is that if you are I think specifically if you're a B2C company, you are a little bit of a tech company, whether you like it or not, because consumers are tech people now and they interact that way. Even if you don't like it, you got to get behind it. Every company that services customers directly is a little bit of tech company now, and specifically home builders.
Yeah, I think that's very interesting.
Thanks for coming, Amy.
Thanks so much for having me. This was really fun.
Yeah. All right, Jordan, what's our next episode about?
Next episode is going to be pretty interesting, I think. We've got Santana as our special guest.
Ooh.
Yeah. And we're going to be talking about actually kind of a connection to everything we've been talking about in the last couple episodes. And that's really the connection between sales and marketing and technology and how that all comes together in a perfect world.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. This has been a ZGM podcast with your hosts, Jordan Mayer and Selena Hallaby, produced by Santana Blanchette, edited by Shelby Von Groven and Scott Steele, and supported by everyone on the ZGM team.
Woo!